Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to be joining a computer into an Active Directory domain to act as a member server. I'm logged on to my KW Server 2 system with the administrator account, and we're ready to start. A couple things we need to do to prep. One, I want an account that I can log on locally to this server to administer it in case we can't get authenticated into Active Directory. We don't want to use the administrator account. That there have some security issues associated with that, and we typically disable that account. In order to set up that other account, I'm going to select Tools and Computer Management. We can see in Computer Management we have local users and groups. If I expand that out, we have users. If I select that, we have administrator and guest. So once we're set, we're going to disable the administrator account under production circumstances so nobody can ever actually use that account. All I do is right click, select new user. We need a username. I'm going to call this sdesk, and the name is actually going to be service desk, which will be pretty clear. Put in a password. We use our standard password for that. Again, this is going to be one of those passwords you hope you never have to use. You're going to want to make this very complex and at the same time the same for all of your member servers and all of your workstations. So everybody uses the same one. If you have different admin teams for servers and workstations, you might want to make that different. Not going to worry about changing the password, and we're not going to worry about it expiring. So we're going to bypass those security features, and our account is now created. Here we are here. Need to make that a member of the administrators group. So I'm going to bring up its properties. We can see the member of tab, only users right now. I'm going to add in administrators. Say okay. I'm now in the administrators group, so anybody who logs in with a service desk account will have admin rights to this computer and this computer only within the domain. Right, that part's finished. The other thing that we need to do is this system needs to be able to resolve from a DNS perspective the Active Directory domain. And right now it can't. Right now it's pointed to the internet. I'm going to bring up the local server properties, and I'm going to modify my Ethernet parameters. So I'll just select this, bring up the properties for the network adapter, and bring up the IPv4 properties. We can see with these properties that DNS is pointing to the same IP address as the default gateway. That's coming from our NAT server. I want this to point to our server 1. So this happens to be .5, which I know, and I'm just going to say OK and OK to push that through. And then I'm going to bring up a command prompt. And we're just going to do an IP config all. And I'll scroll back up here to my Ethernet, and we can see that DNS now points to our server 1, KW server 1. And just to test everything out, I'm going to say ns lookup on dixon.local, which is my Active Directory domain, and that resolves back perfectly. So that's exactly what we need it to do. Right. We're ready to add into the domain. The way we do that, right now, this believes it's in a work group. I'll select the work group, select change, specify I want a domain, and I'm going to punch in my dixon.local domain. The system will go out and find that. It's prompting for a username and password that has rights to add a computer to the domain. So this has to be a domain account. I'm going to use the one that I created since it has admin rights, and will allow me to proceed. When it's finished, it says, hey, welcome to the domain. Great. Say OK. We have to restart. Fair enough. I'll close. I'll allow it to restart. It's going to take a second to restart. Once it is, we're going to be ready to log on. And there's one final thing I want to demonstrate to you before we carry forward with that. One, we can log into the domain and authenticate with a domain account. And the second is that we can actually authenticate with that service desk account if something happens that the domain trust is broken and we cannot get authenticated on the domain at some point in time. Why might it be broken? Maybe you're not connected to the domain on the network. There's some problem there. The network adapter's not working. You need to log in to troubleshoot, and you can't authenticate to the domain to make that happen. All right, we're ready to log in. I'm going to select Control-Alt-Delete. You'll notice that the default still is the local server and the administrator account. Now I'm going to change this. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to use the local server. So KW server 02, 02 / service desk. And I'll punch in the password. We should be able to log in, and sure enough. So we are now connected onto the system with a local account. This has got nothing to do with Active Directory. So if something happens that the system cannot communicate with Active Directory and we have to get authenticated in to work on that, we can use that local service desk account. Okay. I'm going to log out from here, sign out, and I'm going to try logging in. And instead of service desk, what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the Dixon domain and my user account. And once I've done that, again, I'm in. So now I'm authenticated through the domain, which is what you almost always want to do. And because of the fact we set up our user account via the IT staff directory group as part of domain admins, that means that since this computer is now a member of the Active Directory domain, the domain admins have administrative rights onto this computer, which means I can connect in here and basically do anything I need to. That's it for adding a computer to the domain. Hope that this was helpful, and we'll see you next time.